Hello, this is David Duke. In lecturing university students on American policy in the Middle East, I often begin by asking a simple question. I now will ask that question to you. What is the only government in the Mideast that made terrorist attacks against America? It may shock you, but the answer is Israel. Israel has made terrorist attacks against America. It has attacked and blown up American targets, both military and civilian. It has maimed and murdered many Americans. Now, most Americans have no idea that Israel has made terrorist attacks against us, but here are the facts. The first Israeli terrorist attack occurred in the 1950s in what is now called the Lavon Affair. The Israeli government sent Jewish agents into Egypt to blow up American movie theaters and libraries. Only by a quirk of fate were the lives of Americans saved. A Jewish terrorist bomb went off prematurely. His mishap led to the capture of the entire terrorist cell. Now, this attack was far worse than a single act of terrorism costing some lives and property. It was meant to lead America into murderous, unjust war against an innocent nation, Egypt. A war that would have cost the lives of thousands of Americans and cost billions of dollars. Thank God that Israel was caught so red-handed it had to admit that the terrorist attack came from its own government. However, the Jewish-dominated media in America quickly swept it all under the rug. Did the president order a retaliatory strike against Israel? No. Americans just sent Israel more money. Imagine a nation makes a terrorist attack on you and you send them more money and more bombs. Here's a picture of a recent award ceremony in Israel for the Israeli Lavon terrorists who attacked America. The Israeli president gave them medals and called them heroes. It was not reported in the American media. Not a person in the media or government condemned Israel for praising Jewish terrorists who attacked our country. Not a soul in Congress rose in protest. In 1967, Israel made another terrorist attack against America. On a clear day, Israel attacked a fully marked American intelligence ship, the USS Liberty. The Liberty was in international waters, flying a huge American flag. It had been closely monitored for days by Israeli pilots in a vicious surprise attack. As our boys were waving to the Israeli fighter pilots, they began dropping napalm on them, fired hundreds of rounds of cannon and machine gun fire upon them, and then they came in with torpedo boats to sink the Liberty and kill every one of our boys and send them to the bottom of the sea. The Israelis even machine-gunned the life rafts the crew had deployed when it looked like the Liberty might sink. The Zionists tried to kill every American. Now, Egypt was to be blamed, just like the Lavon Affair. The only thing that saved the Liberty was the bravery of its sailors, who, under merciless Israeli fire, rigged a makeshift antenna to issue an SOS to the Sixth Fleet that named Israel as the attacker, and that forced Israel to break off the attack. The Liberty sustained hundreds of hits from cannon and high-caliber fire, napalm bombs, and a horrific torpedo hit. The blood and guts of over 200 Americans were strewn all over the ship. 34 of them lay dead or dying. Over 171 Americans were in agony, many with crippling and disfiguring wounds, and many suffering from horrible burns from the napalm. After their mission failed, Israel then announced that it was simply a mistaken identity. Of course, that is patently absurd. Israel monitored the ship for days. Huge call letters were on the ship. A huge American flag flew in the stiff breeze. Americans also intercepted Israeli pilots' transmissions, proving they knew that the ship was American. The U.S. Secretary of State at the time was Dean Rusk. In response to the mistake story, he said the evidence was clear that Israel deliberately attacked us. Quote, "We refused to accept their explanations. I didn't believe them then, and I don't believe them to this day. The attack was outrageous." Our top military commander in 1970 was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Thomas Moore. He was privy to top secret documents, and he said the Israeli attack was absolutely deliberate murder. His words are worth repeating. These sailors and Marines were entitled to our best defense. We gave them no defense. Did our government put Israel's interests ahead of our own? If so, why? Does our government continue to subordinate American interests to Israeli interests? The American people deserve to know the truth about this attack. It is a duty we owe not only to the brave men of the USS Liberty, but to every man and woman who is asked to wear the uniform of the United States. The Jewish lobby prevented any full-scale congressional investigation in the attack on the Liberty. The captain won America's highest honor, the Congressional Medal of Honor, for his incredible bravery. But instead of being awarded at the White House, as is customary, with normal pomp and circumstance, the medal was given quietly at the Naval Yard. The less Americans knew about this Zionist terror attack, the better for Israel. So what happened after Israel made this murderous terrorist attack upon America? Did America send out a retaliatory strike against Tel Aviv? Did we condemn Israel? Did we even stop sending them billions of our hard-earned tax dollars? Nope. We just sent Israel more bombs so that next time they get the notion to attack us, they can kill our boys even more effectively. Israeli treachery continues. Dozens of Israeli spies have been caught in the United States since the Liberty attack. The most famous was Jonathan Pollard. Even according to the Jewish-descended Secretary of Defense at the time, Caspar Weinberger, the Pollard spy case was the most damaging spy case in the entire history of America. Pollard stole top-secret information on American intelligence operatives and agents in Eastern Europe. The Israelis, in a supreme act of treachery against America, sold their names to the Soviets. Israel directly caused the murder and torture of hundreds of our intelligence agents in Eastern Europe. Some spout that Israel's our only friend in the Middle East. A friend doesn't make terrorist attacks against you, doesn't kill your brave young men, doesn't spy on you and betray you. With a friend like that, you don't need any enemies, and the only reason we have enemies in the Mideast at all is because of support for the terrorist state of Israel, which has brutalized the Palestinians and other peoples in the Mideast for over half of a century. It is not in the American interest to support these Jewish terrorists, a small part of the population of the Mideast, and make enemies of nations with the energy resources so vital to America. After the attack at Pearl Harbor, any American who gave any material support to Japan would have been tried and executed. I say that any congressman or senator who votes for the billions of dollars to be sent to Israel has committed treason against the United States. When treason prospers, none dare call it treason. Well, I dare call it treason to support a state that commits terrorism and treachery against America. We must demand that these traitors be arrested, tried, and punished to the full extent of the law. Zionism and Jewish extremism is not a threat just to the Palestinians and the Lebanese and Syrians and Iranians. It is a threat to we, the people of the United States. Why is it that most Americans don't have a clue about Israeli terrorism against America? And what does this tell you about who controls the American media and government? But Americans and people all over the world are finally waking up to Jewish extremist power. Help spread the truth by sending links for this video to every person that you know. Together, we can wake up the entire world.